Hello and welcome to another edition of the Comic Man Show with your host, the Comic Man. And he is pissed. After watching Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition, I can't believe WB would try to sabotage themselves like this. Namely, the WB executives. Not just cutting the movie, but the footage that they chose to omit from the theatrical cut that would have provided so much more depth and so much more richness and fluidity to the storytelling. It's just perplexing to me. And it leads me to wonder, were some of you assholes at WB Studios looking to get fired? Look, as you all know, I loved the theatrical release. To me, the story was easy to grasp, but it trusted the dullard, mush-mouthed audience too much to connect the dots on their own. This version really tightens it up a lot, and it connects virtually every dot for the audience. I almost want to call this version Batman vs. Superman for Dummies, where every single dot is connected and done in such a way that it's a very fluid and rich experience. And this really makes me feel bad for Zack Snyder. This Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition, is his true vision. And right now, it's getting a lot of praise, even from some of those hypocritical critics and bloggers. But for me, it's too little, too late. He was forced to cut down from his 3-hour version, from his ultimate version, and he was forced to compromise, which he did, and he was raked over the coals for it. He was damn near crucified or lynched for it. And did he once throw the studio under the bus, like I'm doing? No. He took it like a man, and he stood back up. And now he's getting a lot of praise for his Ultimate Edition, as he should. So let's get into it and find out what these changes are. This isn't a kind of quote-unquote director's cut where there's a 15-minute scene just entered in there somewhere in the movie. Virtually every single scene is extended. There are a few extra shots. Every scene is given more room to breathe. There's a lot more character development. My personal favorite, some of the scenes were rearranged to protect that storytelling integrity, and it doesn't jump around as much as it did in the theatrical cut. And then there are, just to me, perplexing footage and scenes that were essential to character development that were just cut. Namely, Clark Kent investigating Batman. Namely, Lois Lane's more in-depth investigation of Lex Luthor. Namely, Lex Luthor's entire master plan where it's just explained to a T here. So let's try to go in order if we can. Very first sequence, right after the brilliant introduction, the Africa sequence. It is told in a far more coherent manner. And this version, you not only see the reach that Lex Luthor has, but you also can understand why the public would start to turn its sentiment against Superman. It's also a lot more brutal and a lot more bloody, and definitely earns that R rating just from that scene alone. We also see Clark Kent investigating Batman more, his exposure, and his travels to Gotham City. And we get a Gotham City skyline complete with the Ace Chemicals logo right there in the skyline. He learns a lot about Batman from the citizens, and I love what this version also does. It keeps it even more grounded and even more realistic because it depicts the heroes also from the point of view of average citizens. So it's also through that exposure that we are given more humor in the form of Perry White and a couple of more humorous lines that he delivers at the expense of Clark. We're also seeing Lois Lane doing a lot more in this version. It's a more in-depth investigation, and she is the one who ties Lex Luthor to everything that has been going wrong in the movie. We also see a lot more character moments between her and her love, Clark Kent. And she's a lot more tolerable in this version because they, rearranging the scenes, have sequenced her scenes in such a way where it really feels like she's like in this in-depth investigation. She is an investigative reporter, and it is worthy of a political thriller of its own. And the most egregious cut of them all. How dare you, WB executives, how dare you cut the Bruce Wayne shower scene? We all deserve to see that chiseled ass on the big screen in theaters. We also get a more mastermind Lex Luthor, who is less on the quirky, crazy side and more of that brilliant side, where he can be tied back to, and you see his hand in everything. From the Africa firefight and the framing of Superman, to the witness that's testified in the framing of Superman, to manipulating Wally Keith, to orchestrating murders in prison, and, of course, the Capitol Hill bombing, and then Doomsday. And let's not forget pitting the heroes to fight each other. So in this version, he is definitely a lot more of a mastermind, and his plan is a lot easier to understand because all the dots are connected for you. And even at the end, when he sort of just explains why he hates Superman so much, that line, it's one line, it's cut, which I don't understand why. It was a 2-second line. Why was that cut? There was also a lot more brutal violence here. And I'm not talking just the fight scenes. Definitely in the fight scenes, there's more violence, but in just other more graphic scenes. The Africa firefight, there is a prison murder. There is, you don't see this, so in the theatrical cut, you see when Lois Lane is abducted, but it's an implied abduction, because you will see her coming across Anatoly Kanayev, the KG Beast, who was far more fearsome in this version, because he was just all over the place, like killing people left and right, that you see them grab her, and just very brutally and very forcefully like throw her down and just like be so rough with her and like throw her in a van where it made me exclaim. You also see a lot of like other cutscenes, some with Batman. There was this cool like video footage of Batman when he invaded the Lex Luthor's headquarters, like him swooping in and taking someone out. Inverted takedown Arkham Games style. And there was just like a little, like, there was an extended conversation between him and Lex Luthor when he confronts him in prison, where there was just like a nice Easter egg of Arkham Asylum thrown to the audience, which I don't understand why it was cut, because there was more dialogue exchanged. Not to mention that ending funeral scene where in the theatrical cut, I thought it was done well. But here, it just takes it to a whole other level. So I highly recommend watching the Ultimate Edition. And I'm sure you've seen all those feckless, mush-mouthed critics, piss-drinking apes, really, coming around and praising this movie. And some are even calling it a night and day difference. Don't believe that. Because all that does is prove to me that they never paid attention when they watched the theatrical cut. The story and the tone is the same. it actually makes it a bit darker. Yes, it's a lot more fluid and coherent in a sense that it connects the dots for you so you don't have to think as much, but it's essentially the same story. And although I find this far superior to the theatrical cut, it is not a night and day difference. People can watch the theatrical cut and still come away saying it was awesome, like me. It's the theatrical cut is more of a streamlined version where it's more like a lean and mean as opposed to the Ultimate Edition, which was Snyder's true vision. But I still can't believe just just a little bits of pieces of lines and footage that were cut. And I understand WB studio executives, you don't want a 3-hour movie, but why couldn't you have a 2-hour and 45-minute movie and put back some of the Clark investigative scenes, the Lewis scenes, the Africa sequence, the integrity could have stayed there and you could have just toned down the violence there. Why not just have that extended talk between Batman and Lex Luthor? Why not show Superman saving lives after the bombing at the Capitol and bringing people to the ambulances before he flew away? And I hate now how the critics are all fawning over this and how they're just showing how much of a hypocrites they are. So once again, even though they're praising it now, don't listen to them anyway. The theatrical cut is still not shit. The Ultimate Edition is still superior. So if you still have yet to see this movie, just watch the Ultimate Edition. And now, on to the Justice League news and the Comic Man's reaction. So, I was talking about the cowardly, feckless critics. For some reason, WB thought it was wise to invite them over to London, where they're currently filming Justice League, and to be on set and to write up set reports. So we got a deluge and a wealth of information last week. And I'm not sure it's all good news, because there are a few things I took away from it. First, just let's do a quick rundown of the news. The high points, it's going to be lighter in tone. It's going to be more of a team dynamic movie, obviously, with Justice League. There's going to be more humor. Batman is going to be more of this rejuvenated and man-on-a-mission figure. And all the critics that were there, all the reporters who had hated on Batman vs. Superman, seemed to come away optimistic and loved what they saw. There were 2 scene descriptions. One was an interaction between Batman, Bruce Wayne, and the Flash, Barry Allen, I think that's the version, where, I honestly enjoyed it when I read the exchange of Batman trying to find out just what the Flash can do, and then finally Flash with witty and funny retorts back, and then finally Batman had enough and threw a batarang and time slowed down, and just the Flash just seems like a treat. I just hope they don't go overboard with it and really go into Marvel Studios territory, because we damn sure don't need another action fucking comedy. The second scene sees some of the League members meet with Commissioner James Gordon on top of Gotham Police HQ with the bat signal shining, and there, we see Wonder Woman smiling at people, Batman cracking jokes, which really offends me, because Batman doesn't crack jokes when he's in the field. He does have more of a dry and wry sense of humor at times, but definitely not when he's in the field. And of course, we have Flash and Cyborg just being funny. So that part I'm looking forward to, which is more the team dynamics. Batman and Wonder Woman and how they're going to work together, Batman and the Flash, Batman and Cyborg, and how everybody's going to have to get along with King Prick himself, Aquaman. So, Of course, the critics praised the lighter tone, and some said it was more reactionary tone, but they went on record, Zack Snyder and the writer Chris Terrio, they went on record before Batman vs. Superman was even released and said how Justice League was going to be far lighter in tone and more hopeful and more heroic, and that how Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League was part of a trilogy, which a lot of people seemed to forget. But I do fear that they injected a lot more jokes to pacify and placate the critics. So I'm going to trust Zack Snyder and Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck here, because Ben Affleck, he did comment and say how, sure, it's lighter in tone, but it's not going to be all jokes because, DC Comics is more mythic and operatic, and that aesthetic is going to be preserved in Justice League, which gives me hope. And I've been a fan of both of you, Zack Snyder and Ben Affleck, for the past 10 plus years. Ben Affleck, I have loved everything you have done for the past 10 years. So you better not fuck this up. Because if both of you screw this up, then I'm really gonna